Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we are once again going to be talking about becoming a strong carry jungler by being an intelligent jungler, being smart, using your brain, understanding the game flow and that you have to take the game as it is and make the best decisions in the moment, rather than focusing on an idealistic situation that may or may not even exist out of the constructs of your own mind. A lot of this comes from understanding which direction the map is moving, what objectives are available, what the enemy wants to do, and how to understand your own spikes and pick your moments. A lot of this also means that you might actually have a deficit well into the game. You're really sort of saying, you know what, we're down on gold, laners are not performing as they should, but I'm ahead. I have the lead, the game is really in my control, and so the gold deficit doesn't really mean anything. And that's when you pick your moment, you finesse all over the enemy, and you go and collect your 9 LP points with big pride. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing. Don't forget to head to the gameplay channel for detailed analysis on every single jungler in the game. And now, without hesitation, let's begin. Now, as we begin the game, there's nothing really fancy going on, standard rune sets except Kha'Zix. The semi-new tech is going for the Dark Harvest Duskblade Ignite run. We do have a flash here, which I think is a bit more prudent choice for most of you. I know you love to smurf on your foes, but the flash is a little bit more useful. And as you watch both junglers get a leash on the red buff, basically this allows you to have the pseudo R-Evolve built into your itemization. With every takedown, you get the unseen passive threat reactivated. This allows you to evolve your Q first and then your W, giving you extended attack range, isolation cooldown refund, and because you actually happen to be stacking that Dark Harvest, that means you are more likely to get those resets on Duskblade, get more passive procs on your autos, and just basically destroy everyone. So that's the goal we're looking to get to, but it does also mean less reliable damage without the electrocute, specifically single target and in the early game. That being said, it means we have to let the game come to us. You know Gragas leashed, you know he's going to be pushing. The fact that it's warded is of no concern to you. I do like getting that scanner for these early ganks, but when they're shoved up like this, and they're not actually paying attention to you whatsoever, and they use their body slam for an engage, that's an absolute free first gank. And while Kha'Zix doesn't get an assist or a kill, it's sort of like an assist by proximity. The pressure's good enough to give it to the Yone. Now in this case, your mid laner might not have the heads up display necessary to go and place a ward in the pixel bush like the Seraphine did. But while you are actually doing this gank, while you are going to the Scuttle Crab, make sure you track and note the CS of the enemy jungler. You know he started top side. You just need to know if his Krugs are up, if he did a 6 camp or a 5 camp, and apparently even challenger players can simply tank tower shots and not understand that Rel is a not okay champion. This is pre-nerfs, remember, and not the nerfs that just went live. That and he's tanking tower shots like he's a season 6 Omreka Udyr. Now in this situation, you have no control over this. If he gets a gank in bottom lane, he gets a gank. If he dies, he dies. You simply have to make decisions based upon what actually happens. So while you are seeing the fact that he chose to gank on the mid lane, Orianna was low, Seraphine is low, capitalize, translate that top scuttle mid lane into 2 kills and an experience advantage. But part of game flow and jungle understanding is that if mid lane was, say, perma pushed, you couldn't gank it, you couldn't dive it, the Graves dies as he does, maybe top lane is also shoving. Once you've done the crab, you can look to counter jungle the second spawn of the Raptors at around 4 or 5. The Kha'Zix could go and counter jungler's Krugs, whether that's the first spawn like in this situation, or the second spawn if the Graves actually did that after the red. And then you could consider diving top lane if you had champions and HP resources that were necessary. Don't tower dive like the Graves, that's not how you do it. But because the mid lane was gankable, I like that pressure. I think it's way more healthy for the game when junglers are doing this. Laners have to use their wards, use their brains, and for once, this is an actual all-challenger game, pretty much every single player, which means you're getting the highest level of awareness, and yet they still fall prey to these things, which means what's stopping you from making these mistakes? It doesn't really matter if your teammates don't rotate, it doesn't really matter if it's warded. Sometimes pulling the trigger and being unsuspecting in your pathing is more than enough to get the kills you so desire. After that, Kha'Zix does his Raptors and he spam pings the top side. Because Graves did a 5 camp crab into his Krugs into a tower death, you know 1000% he's gonna spawn and go straight to his Krugs. It's the only camp that are up, and then he can sequence down to do his Raptors or to gank on the overpushing Yone, who is overpushing. There is not one exoplanet, one galaxy, one universe where you did not expect this Yone to overpush and die to a Graves. Especially considering we pinged it, that's the specialty. But as you're watching, because the Kha'Zix went back to base, and now has the intention of sequencing Gromp, Wolves, and down, give him the second tier red, gives him level 6, gives him bot lane pressure, dragon pressure, and because he expected and pinged out this Graves' gank, it means he's actually pathing directly to this to try and help out the Yone as best he can. He almost actually arrives in time. However, in the event things don't go your way, don't overcommit, don't overgreed. Pull back, let the wave push in, Don't show your hand, simply hold your spells until the right moment, hold your flash. If and when they overgreed for this, you simply outplay them with your mechanical skill level and, basically punish them for not recognizing the fact that it's so early in the game, Yone has TP, and now they're both dead. Sometimes baiting out skills and biding your time is one of the best ways to make outplays, specifically when the enemy is actually single-minded, and I will show you the goal graph at the end. They did in fact have a deficit at around 12 minutes. So all of this is looking great and snowbally, but it isn't the reality of the situation. He's just reading the map, making the plays, and understanding what he has to do in the moment. Now at this point, that is securing the Gromp and actually getting the regeneration, getting level 6, evolving those very spiky Q claws, and depathing from the graves is a little suspect. I understand going to take your tier 2 raptors, but you're gonna have a tier 2 Krog spawn coming up. Obviously it'll be your highest experience camp, and then your second red buff. The only problem with this is it kind of allows the Kha'Zix to do whatever he wants. What the Graves is expecting is the Kha'Zix to simply go Gromp, Wolves, maybe down to his red, and then look to gank bottom lane, maybe Dragon, maybe Invade, because he does have that buff prio. If he went to do the Wolves and the Gromp, he might be closer to level 6 and able to actually counter gank, but he wouldn't even have the power to do so because of his greed in the early game. The Kha'Zix understands this, so instead of going for the Wolf, says, you know what, I'm level 6, let me use this before anyone else can, and try and gank mid lane. Scans his approach, I'm seen. No problem. Destroy the ward, use your seen threat, and simply walk across mid lane like the alpha. There's an RNG crab spawning on that side, and you know the Graves doesn't have the power or lane support to actually match you at the moment. And that's very important because most junglers will actually have an experience lead, an item lead, and a sort of mental lead, and they don't abuse it. Most of you, I think, would have simply done Gromp Wolves, maybe down to your red, maybe gone back to base. You're kind of chuffed that you 2-0-1, but that's not how you actually carry games because you're not reading the game flow and the opportunity to actually secure things on the map. Way too often lower ranked junglers will simply use this as an opportunity to farm and further their lead. Except currently you have the jungle gap, which means you should be able to use it on lanes, on objectives. Which of course he does, and you'll notice the Graves understands this and decides might as well camp top lane, it's a Yone, it's free food. I don't know why Seraphine rotates up to die as well, but the bigger question I want to ask you is, did you consider counter jungling once you finish the dragons if you knew Graves was topside? If you did, that wasn't exactly the right play because the enemy bottom lane went back to base first, your bottom lane wants to reset now, and if you go and try and steal that Gromp, you might very well be collapsed 2v1. So the best bet is simply letting what happens happen on the top lane. Now the thing is, I like the idea here of doing your red raptors and simply resetting. The desire to defend your blue buff from being stolen isn't really realistic because you're not going to get there in time before he smites it, as you can see, and now going for this fight is just a little bit problematic. Seraphine has just gotten back to mid lane, she has to deal with the wave, the Orianna has prior on rotation, your bottom lane backed after the enemy bottom lane, which means the set can move up to this fight sooner than Rel can because she was simply going back to bottom lane to farm it up. In the end, as you see, he's able to secure one kill, very close to actually being able to get another one. The issue is you had a lot of gold in pocket. By shutting yourself down and giving gold away, by giving pressure away, you're giving them a herald and your blue buff instead of simply saying, you know what, I'm gonna go back to base, buy a big warhammer, and then give the blue away in order to go and win that fight at the heralds, which you would have done with your advanced itemization spike. However, as I said in the intro, it's about processing what is not what should be. Kha'Zix rotated to the fight, he tried to make something happen. Fortunately, the Graves died, which means you don't actually lose the Herald. So upon respawning, you might think, okay, great, let's go and do Wolves and Gromp, it's time to farm. Nah, because Graves also died and you can see him holding mid lane, straight to the top side, get the random crab, take the Herald for yourself. Your focus here is not on farming, it's on map control because you can. And this is the thing about being a strong jungler and having a lead, you have to recognize it, because if you are giving away heralds, if you are giving away dragons, if you are missing counter jungling opportunities, and you don't actually have to, you're causing yourself to lose for no particular reason. Now once that's done, your bots are actually here, they want to roam and dive top, 4-man it, use the herald, get all the plates. I think here the Kha'Zix is a little bit too safe. I don't like these dives without the wave, but if you are present for the dive, instead of thinking about cutting the wave with the Krugs, maybe Rel's able to get out and survive. Regardless, they get kills, you get nothing, you can activate the Herald and get as many plates as you desire. However, this really isn't a poster example for a dive because the Orianna rotates and the Twitch dies as well. Now you will notice from the Graves' perspective, he was simply doing the honest work of farming his jungle, it's all he can really do at the moment. He did the Wolves in blue. As soon as he saw Kha'Zix topside, he didn't do his Gromp first. He went immediately to Kha'Zix's red side jungle, took the Raptors, and takes the Krugs. Once you've done that, if you don't have numbers, you don't have TP, you don't have the macro awareness of the team, you can simply leave the situation. If you happen to be in a higher elo game, or maybe your teammates are activated for once, and you happen to be in the Graves' position, take advantage. Make the pick on the support, grab yourself a kill or two. Kha'Zix, play it safe. But if you can't snipe a kill with your W on the Jhin, do it. Just don't simply overcommit that you die as well. You must be alive, the dragon is going to be spawning soon, and you might be down a level. You might be down 20 CS because of all your aggressive playing. But he, as Kha'Zix, has the item advantage. He basically has a free R evolve. Now at this point, you basically have to assess the game state. Has our smart jungling been great? Are we fed? Are we juiced? What are the laners doing? And in this situation, you can see your Yone has rotated. He appreciates the plate gold you gave him. He appreciates the presence you've had in his lane. Gragas does not appreciate it, is a bit distracted pushing the waves. That means even though you lost Rel, you killed the enemy AD carry. The red team has to give this dragon. But if they fight, as Kha'Zix, you can use your lead, you can use your spike of the mythic itemization. Watch the destruction that unfolds. Moving in and out of the team fights, using his auto Q once he gets the unseen passive reset from Duskblade, he ends up taking away 4 kills, and the dragon, and most likely some LP, and the enemy's happiness. Yes, they had a small lead for a little bit. Yes, it looked like all of a sudden the Graves was going to be in a better position, but you don't let things like a 20 CS lead and the fact that he just happened to hit level 9 ahead of you mean you were jungle gapped. No. You let the game come to you. If they make a mistake, you punish it. And really, that's the core essence of jungling. If they make mistakes, you must punish it. If they're in the wrong place, be in the right place. And it was very basic. He just took all the tenets from the previous video and simply applied it to the game and was able to control it at every stage. Now after that, you can go back to base, you can spend more gold, use this time while laners are sort of recollecting and pushing waves out, sequence your camps, do your Gromp, Blue, Wolves, Raptors, but as your team looks to push up, join them, push the enemy outside of their jungle, use your vision control to make sure you are actually, the dominator of the map, and if someone missteps, you kill them. That's what snowballing means. Snowballing doesn't mean farming it up, letting the push waves into you and doing nothing. It means it's time to play civilization, and you are the only civilization, and everyone else needs to be assimilated, and that's how you have to treat his jungle territory. When a dragon spawns and the objective is up, this is the 3rd now, make sure you secure it. If your team are deciding to fight like banshees and basically do whatever they want, make sure you actually rotate. Please don't get into this habit now of I did the dragon, they fight and die, I'm gonna split push, I'm gonna take a Gromp. What's the point of being a Kha'Zix level 12 with WQ evolve, with a Duskblade, Edge of Night, and a Last Whisper item, and not actually moving up to kill them all? And after this, you really should not relinquish your lead. I'll put the graph up, you can see the gold swing, you can see the damage, you can see the KDAs. A strong carry jungler by being a smart jungler, understanding game flow, understanding all the basics of the role. And this works in every MMR because if the enemy jungler's in the wrong place, as he usually is, they don't know where to be, you should still be in the right place, taking all the objectives and everything you need to take this Baron and close the game out. And if you happen to be in an MMR where they're not going to surrender on the Baron, I do have links to how to close out these games. I will put that in the description. But sometimes I simply like a good core gameplay that shows you how dominating the role can be when you play it correctly. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do like, share, and comment if you did. Keep using those evolved cues to trim the split ends from your beard. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial. Please, can we buff Volibear jungle? He's not a top laner only.